Hey, welcome. We're going to talk about the patch. Soul 8 Man has a video where he goes and tests things, and he's very analytical. There'll be a link to his video in the video description below, and let's go.
Hello guys, my name is Soul Ape and the new PTR just dropped. We are expecting, some fine-tuning, some bug fixes to the previous version, the first version, but Blizzard decided actually to make huge changes. So let's start with that, because what they are changing, of course, very little, is the fabric of Warcraft 3 reality, which is the armor attack table. And it's here in general. It's the one line of text that changes everything. Piercing damage against heavy armor decreased from 100% to 90%. So of course I tested if the value is implemented correctly, so I changed the rifleman so he deals exactly
Yeah, that's a good move. That's a good move. Fixed damage.
10 damage, and he has piercing damage type, and we are going to test it on this ghoul that has zero armor value. That's very important, so there is no additional reduction, and the armor type is heavy. And in the past, because it was 100% multiplier, it would deal 10 damage. But on the live patch, we have 340, right? We attack once, and we test our result, it's 331. So this works correctly. By the way, then with the power of the Twitch chat, they told me, so just check the constant table. And what is funny with this table, because the game actually stores those values, is they call the heavy armor large. Armor type. So yes, piercing versus large / heavy, 0.
It does make sense because it was small, medium, and large. So it got changed to heavy though, I think.
0.9. This changes everything, but I spent some time on thinking about how the potential matchups in 1v1 pro level can change, and in my opinion...
Let's just take a moment to look at that. I get it. It's like human versus night elf. This is a big change. But the coloring is like, I feel like I'm on an acid trip or something going on here. What's the easiest way to do it? He has got the colors representing the races. Human blue, night elf green, orc red, undead is pink. So no real change between human mirror, other than if they were doing rifle mirror, which wouldn't really matter because there'd just be mass rifles. It's only when knights come into play, but yeah, there's no real change there. So basically saying that night elf versus themselves, orc and undead, is kind of meh, but the changes for human are bigger apparently. Humans' interaction with night elf, orc, undead are big, and their interaction with human is also big. And then of course you got orc versus orc big, and undead versus undead big.
This change is actually very big. So in Human Mirror, I think there will be no changes, and there are some matchups where the change is going to be huge. For example, in Undead Mirror, one player used to play like Ted Fiends, so DK Fiends, and now, because you fight versus skeletons, they have heavy armor, you fight early versus ghouls, they have heavy armor, it's just going to be 10% worse. Similar with Polar Rifle, similar if in Night Elf versus Night Elf Mirror. Of course, on pro level, you see a lot of Demon Hunter versus Demon Hunter, right? But it's another buff to Hunts. Why? Because Hunts with upgrade, they have heavy armor. If opponent is trying to defend from them, you make a lot of archers, or maybe even dryads, and it's all piercing versus heavy armor. And there is so many examples, Farseer Headhunter in Orc Mirror and so on. So definitely yes, I will try to keep eye on it, but it's hard to predict after just seeing this like that. But at least it gives, in my opinion, us some estimation, and feel free to not agree with this table, but I think yes, a lot of matchups are affected by a lot in early game, in the mid game, and even in the late game. Next big change is actually nerf.
Just before he goes on to that, I think it's... How many creeps have heavy armor? There is a good mixture of the armor types on creeps. There's a lot of trolls with medium armor and such, so they're taking bonus damage from footman creeping and such. People worried about footman being able to creep so much more quicker and stuff because they take 10% less damage. It's like, yeah, I guess a little bit, but it's not going to be like the human footman mirror match wars that you're expecting. People are still going to be trying to get to tier 2 and not really sticking on mass footman. That's only sometimes in my games where that will happen. My opponent either sticks on mass footman or I bloody do, because I refuse to tech. We see.
To hunt And the nerf is very specific. Huntress glaives will no longer bounce to and from structures. What does it mean? Okay, so we have a huntress and this hunt is attacking a building, this particular farm, and in the live server it bounce to another buildings, but it's not bouncing. Okay, so what if I will take a peon and I will start repairing the farm, and look at this, it's not bouncing, it's not bouncing. So if you attack the building, it's not going to bounce between buildings or two units. What if you attack unit that is repairing? Let's see about that. So I have this peasant here, he's repairing, I attack. And look at this, the farm is full HP and my peasant is escaping, and there is no bounces to the buildings, there is bounce to units. Last but not least, if you...
You know, I kind of understand some of the logic behind that, but I still don't. The huntresses can be obnoxious, the bouncing glaive, but I did mention this before that they are pretty much kind of an all-in unit for the most part. It's very rare that you'll see someone just casually build huntresses. Just gonna make a couple of huntresses. You basically go all in and you hope it works, or you go all in and your opponent just out-techs you and outplays you. It's one or the other, really. So reducing that glaive, the bouncing thing, kind of is a bit of a shame, because it's kind of the design of the huntress, right? That she does bounce whatever she's attacking, but yeah.
Attack a unit, yes, with this upgraded hunt with Moonglaive, it will attack all of the targets, as we can see, so it's bouncing only with the units. And this is actually pretty impactful, right? Because in the past you could just right click, for example, human main, then the human will bring all of his peasants to repair, and Huntress, they will attack the main and they will kill the peasant repairing. But in this patch, this PTR is not going to happen, so this base trading, base sieging by hand is not as good. Fighting is still good without structures, but if there are structures involved, it's a big nerf.
But yeah, it's just two peasants repairing without any trouble whatsoever. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm probably a little bit biased towards humans, so this is like a huge buff to human in a way that huntresses are less obnoxious. But there was a skill to sort of repairing with these units and then pulling back the injured units, putting those maybe onto the gold mine or onto wood further away, because if you are on the gold mine, you could still potentially get hit by these glaives depending on your positioning. And you just take the healthier peasants that are also on wood and bring them to repair, and you bounce the units around until you basically do get exhausted, where all of your units are basically near dead. And then that is just, well, I guess you just didn't get the job done in time or deal with the huntresses well enough.
Another big change, of course, the Death Knight Ultimate. I would like to remind everybody that yes, Death Knight Ultimate now should give us the abilities that unit had upon dying, right? So in the past it didn't work on the first iteration of the PTR. We have Shaman with Bloodlust, Witch Doctors with Healing Ward, we have this Makura Tidal Lord, amazing minion with Cleave and with Devotion Aura, we have a Kodobis that can devour and so on. And let's prepare the corpses. Now Death Knight is here to revive. And look at this. The units are on...
This was the PG version, so it didn't have to get like an NC-17 tag. There was no sort of display of the gore, such as the creatures getting killed. It just jump cut to when they were already dead. So he's just trying to make sure that this doesn't get censored.
Master, right? So yes, that's true, it's kind of work. It's kind of sucks, you know, that it's, for example, when we have a Witch Doctor, even on Master ability, yes, he has the extra regen, but he will never...
You wondered, didn't you, as well, whether they come back with full mana, but it doesn't look like it. That's a Master Witch Doctor, but he's got 75 mana there, I guess, when he spawned, when it started, my guess, estimate. So they don't spawn with 100 plus, which means not likely to be able to cast many of their spells anyway, but before Animate Dead is gone.
Be able to cast Healing Ward, because the Healing Wards, they cost 150 mana, right? So they are new. Okay, maybe at the end, we'll see about that. But yes, Kodobis still doesn't have aura, but in the PTR it says that they are working on it, just takes more time. But yes, there is no passives, so the passives are still not there. Units still can build, right? So that's pretty good. And I'm just curious, out of the curiosity, yes, the Witch Doctor exploded before giving us the possibility to have the healing. But guys, it's more exotic than that. Look, so it's the same example, and look at I'm the red player here, right? Red player, and I have my shaman, and this shaman is only on update training. I have my red player, Spirit Lodge, and I can go for Adept training. I can go for Adept training for the Witch Doctors. So what happens when we revive them? Are we going?
This is like the most niche thing ever of all the niches, because you'd have to have access to a Spirit Lodge as an undead player for this to even be a thing, unless it's like a random heroes type deal where, for example, you're playing as Orc and you would have built Spirit Lodge anyway. I'm talking about like there's these competitions where specific maps you have random heroes, so you could end up with a Death Knight as an Orc player, then maybe. But yeah, the idea he's going for here is that you would actually spawn with more. It's interesting to see it though, but it's like there's probably going to be one player in about 4 years that's maybe going to pull this off.
Going to get the abilities for free? Let's see about that, ladies and gentlemen. So Farseer will prepare the corpses again. Death Knight is going into position, and let me tell you, you get the upgrades. Look, I get the Shaman, I have the Witch Doctor, I click on the Spirit Lodge, I have the upgrades, and my Shaman is also Master Shaman. So, ladies and gentlemen, is it important in 1v1? People are screaming, so you are getting excited about this, but is it a 1v1 change? Not really. Maybe if you play solo Death Knight Mass Garx Laming, then you can in 1v1 get into level 6. But
couldn't it affect Necros? It'll affect everything. It's basically when you possess with a Banshee, you steal that unit, and that unit might be a master unit. If it's an undead mirror, I think if you do that, it actually gives you the upgrades. I'm not 100% sure because this is, again, it's pretty niche. It's something I don't come across often enough to memorize, but theory, I think, yes, when you possess, you get basically the equivalent of that. So if you did have these Orc Shaman, then you get that master upgrade, as Soul has demonstrated here.
What is important in FFA? In FFA, players have this big dream of getting bloodlusted frostworms or something. And now, because you have the master, what you need to do, right? You need to just steal a peon, make a Great Hall, then upgrade Great Hall, produce Spirit Lodge. With Spirit Lodge, you will have the master abilities already there. So you don't need to go tier 3. You need to double research the master ability. What it requires you to kill and revive one Shaman on master, and then and one peon, of course. So you can just possess peon with the Banshee. Doesn't matter. But yes, it's much easier in FFA to get into the double race now with the Death Knight ultimate. In 1v1, it doesn't matter. And to be honest, I don't know if it should be like that. It can ruin 4v4. FFA, let me know what you think. And, lastly, before I forget, there was a question in the Twitch chat, do you get the upgrades, so attack armor upgrades, and the answer is not, right? So I will do the same. So I have my Fiend is 0/0, right, upgraded. This Fiend is 3/3 upgraded, so I'm going to use Chain Lightning. I'm going to prepare my corpses, and yes, the Fiend that we resurrect is 0/0 because they are just 0/0, and the Fiend that we have is still 0/0 as well. Even the Corpse Fiend was 3/3 upgraded. And now the change that everybody is talking about is that Blizzard buffed Panda in the new PTR. Movement speed, Panda is like now the fastest hero, like is as fast as Archmage, as fast as the Blade Master, for example, as fast as Demon Hunter. It goes from 290 to 320, so it's like the Panda got half boots of speed basically, so it's a big buff. Also the damage over time from Breath of Fire was increased, and it's all about why Panda is getting this love, because in the first iteration of the PTR, the area of effect was nerfed by a lot. So, okay, this is Panda level 1. Usually use Breath of Fire level 2, right? So this Breath of Fire level 2 Drunken Haze. So let's see what's going to happen. I cast Drunken Haze, and I need to get very closely, and I use Breath of Fire.
That is
and
weird.
It's basically much harder to aim. We need to think about Panda like about TC with Shockwave, basically. So yes, the Breath of Fire is strong, and Blizzard said that it's all about having, a Breath of Fire in line with the animation. So you know what I did? Because there is so many changes to this Panda, I just decided to play versus computer on PTR and to check how it feels, and something hilarious happened. Okay, so what do you see here is me playing versus computer with Panda first, And, you know, I'm just winning versus computer. Yes, I can win versus computer insane big.
I mean, he says he's winning, but I see the computer has an expansion, so I wouldn't necessarily say he's won the game yet.
Big deal. I have Panda level 5, right? And yes, I want to, you know, to test the Panda a little bit. And keep eye on the burrows on the top left. I don't know why, but computer decided to remove the peons. And look at this. We are going to analyze this frame by frame. So I have Panda level 5. Remember that I'm not the best player ever, right?
Mine.
But I'm here and I see the peons. Look at this. I'm clicking with my, you see my mouse cursor at the peon. And I use the ability like on the peon, you see on the first one. So I thought, you know, because the peons from the top are coming as well, you know, it's just going to like hit them all. So look, I acquired the target. The Panda is starting the animation. Panda is very close to the peons and the breath of fire is going to happen. Look at this. But the peon on the bottom is moving and breath of fire is happening. Look at this wave and bam! The wave went through and as you can see.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh, what did they do to you, boy? All of that fire, but doesn't touch anything other than that one that was just targeted because he's slightly further away than the others. Now, I'm starting to think that the reason why the original Breath of Fire has such a ridiculously fast reaching sort of AoE is to sort of compensate for the scuffed way that it was maybe created. It seems like there's a fundamental problem with the spell, like it would need to actually be remade. Do you see what I mean? Because that ain't right, is it? So if you do make a patch where you nerf the radius of it, well, it's almost deliberately put in there, that radius, to compensate for the fact that it doesn't reach as far as it should do. So it's bizarre. It's clearly bizarre how it spreads the AoE. It should, in theory, easily hit those peons, but it's not. That's very odd. And I think, obviously, the new Blizzard aren't aware that maybe that's what was the reason why he had it the way he did. When they first created it, they were probably like, I can't get this spell to work properly. I'm just going to make the radius massive. Oh, now it works. But it's like, obviously, the radius is a bit ridiculous if you've ever played the Panda. But it's been like that for years, so we kind of got used to it. So I don't know if you should touch the Panda. I think maybe, honestly, you might need to just revert the changes if it's going to make it so that it's kind of horrible to play and it doesn't do its job properly.
From this angle, under the animation, I think we can agree that all of the peons are near, you know, this super big breath of fire. But in reality, I connected to only one peon. So, ladies and gentlemen, yes, it's all about the targeting. I don't know if the pro players are going to be able, you know, to target super well, because it's all about targeting. If the spell is changing. So, to be honest, from my experience, it's hard for me to tell you are the values good or enough, because it's all about targeting, right? I got one peon here, and I don't have that much experience. But look, like the targeting wasn't that bad, in my opinion. Look at this. Again. I'm here, I target, and the breath of fire went through, and only one peon got hit. It got hit by a lot, but yes, maybe, you know, the better players are going to be able to target better, but
you can target ground
with the Panda is actually required testing. You can check the numbers, you need to...
I don't think you can have that. You can always make the argument, oh, just attack ground and get the exact right positioning, but it's not right, because it's obviously supposed to hit more. If you did a shockwave or a carrion swarm or whatever, that's going to hit more. That's going to clip onto multiple targets. So that's what it should be doing. That's the fundamental point, is that should be doing more than what it is. So it ain't right.
Put one pro player with the Panda versus another pro player without the Panda, and this is how we need to test it. And the one guy with the Panda needs to like play 20 hours so to get the muscle memory in tag with the new aiming, basically. So those are the most important like melee balancing changes. And now I just want to show you like quickly that Blizzard actually changed this. So the Brilliance Aura, not on Archmage, but there are some monsters in Warcraft 3 that have Brilliance Aura. The value wasn't like showed properly in this tooltip under the Brilliance Aura, and now it used to show 0 and it's 0.5, so that's nice. And guys, those all of the changes that you need to understand about balance, but now I'm going to say big thank you for Blizzard for fixing a lot of quality of life bugs and actually adding some new quality of life features in this PTR variation. So I will show you them. So now we are in the hotkeys menu that can access from just being in the game, and look at this. There's a lot of hotkeys, right? Especially if somebody wants to experiment a little bit with the control group hotkeys. And let's put something crazy to the control group hotkey, for example, mouse 5, for example, P. So that's pretty weird group for hotkeys, and you know, I don't judge, everybody has their opinion, but what Blizzard added is pretty cool. Look at this. They added a new menu, so you go to help, menu, help, and if you scroll down, it's basically, it shows you all of the hotkeys that you have in the game. It's being explained, and if you scroll down enough, you see the preview of the hotkeys you have, right?
So the ini file is being adapted as you do it. That's good. It displays. That's what it should do, really. It's adaptive. So if you want to refresh your memory or something, there you go. You find the information. Maybe that affects people that are siblings and their brother uses the game as well. And he changes the hotkeys a specific way. And you're like, what the hell did he change the hotkeys to now? And now you can just quickly check whilst in the game.
So if you are like setting up the hotkeys, you don't understand them, you can read the description and so on. And it even shows you what you assign. So this is a pretty cool feature, especially for the new players, and even for me, like old school player. I'm definitely going like to read some descriptions here. I'm going to make sure that I set up every single hotkey as I wanted, explaining Control Enter, Shift Enter, and stuff like that. So this is amazing, and this is new. Of course, there are still some imperfections, for example, with the hotkeys. For example, this toggle ali health bar. So usually people use just health to have health bars always on, but if somebody wants to toggle, you can change the hotkeys. And it's pretty funny because Blizzard said that they fixed implementation of toggle health bar hotkeys, and they didn't. You change them and they don't work. Trust me, I tested, so this is like a big feedback kick. Of course, you can find every single change in my
so they're trying to gaslight us.
Document in my Google Sheet that I'm attaching to this document. But I want to focus here on the cool things. For example, Blizzard said, change the ordering of mercenaries so that it's possible to assign QWERTY or like ASDF, you know, the same combination of keyboards, to all the camps without conflict. And this is funny. Look at this. We go to the neutral, and there is so many mercenary caps, and they have different mercs, and sometimes the mercs are the same, right? They're the same, but if you want to have ASDF, SDF, ADS of all of those mercs, you need to make sure that there will be no collision. So for example, in one camp, you have the Kobold Geomancer on D and another in F, so the game would not know what to do. And I actually tested it, and ladies and gentlemen, there is no collision. There's all of the merc camps, there are all of the mercs, and it never happens that on slot 1, 2, 3, or 4.
I think Soul 8 Man is the fourth member. The secret fourth member of the Blizzard RTS team. I think there's 3 of them. I'm not sure. There's 3. He's got to be the 4th.
Or you have the same. You can't have the same mercs like somewhere in different slots, right? Because it breaks these ergonomics of ASDF or QWERTY, right? So this I tested, and this is amazing that Blizzard thought about this. But yes, there are still.
Just gonna bug anyone that's got OCD, by the way. Look at 11 Village slot 1. The Kobold Tunneler has a space before the word. That needs to be fixed.
Right. So this I tested, and this is amazing that Blizzard thought about this. But yes, there are still some stuff missing. For example, like Entangled Goldmine is still not there, and you can't assign the. You can only have a hotkey to make it, but you don't have hotkeys to operate it, like load a wisp, remove all wisps from Entangled Goldmine. Blizzard also fixed something, and then I don't understand the patch notes, so maybe I will use this time to talk about this. So they said, removed hotkeys for passive abilities. For example, here, the Mountain Giant, it used to be bugged, and right, you have a passive abilities already researched. What is a passive ability? Simple. For example, everybody knows Knights, right? You have a beautiful Knight, and the Knights, they have this passive ability that gives them more HP, right? Animal War Training. So if you Research Animal World Training, you know, you can't use these abilities just bonus to HP, a very simple passive ability, right? And it's the same with the MGs. So inside of the Ancient of Lore, you can research them, right? So for research ability, you need a hotkey because you actually click this. But when the MGs, they get the ability, it's just passive. And you can assign hotkeys here, it's perfect. But Blizzard said, removed hotkeys for the passive abilities. Hotkeys for learning passive abilities still exist. That's perfect. The team is aware of an issue where resistant skin and hardened skin hotkeys still appearing, and they are not appearing. I don't know, maybe they fixed this last moment, and you know there was some miscommunication with this, the post and the team, but yes, those kind of issues that we want to see, that something that apparently shouldn't work actually works well, so don't worry about this. And now I think in this neutral tab, the biggest problem is of course that marketplace is a mess. Imagine that somebody opens the marketplace like, oh my god, I need to assign hotkeys to all of those items. In reality, you can't even use hotkeys to buy those items because you can't buy items that appear in the marketplace.
I didn't know that. Listen, because I never tried, basically, in all the years. I've never tried to really buy things specifically. I don't even know the hotkeys for all of the items in the shop, let alone the marketplace.
A hotkey. At least we don't have conflicts here, but yes, this should be changed. And big thank you for Blizzard for adding Nether Dragon Roost into this, because yes, it kind of was bothering me that we have all dragons but not Nether dragons. Last but not least, Blizzard made sure that this key conflicts feature has access also to inventory hotkeys. What I'm talking about, for example, at Gnome 7 in my hero inventory is where I keep my TP, right? It's a default position. Let's say I want to use it by clicking a hotkey. And the game immediately screams on me and says, so there is so many issues here. And look at this, when I go to human, I click to, let's say, paladin, and for me, I want to use my holy light with A. But imagine I have TP, scroll teleportation on my paladin.
So he likes ASDF for a lot of these hotkeys. There's a lot of QWERs, and then there's, I think it's Russia maybe, there's more in favor of the ZX CV. ASDF. Somewhere in between.
Click A. The game doesn't know if I want to use Holy Light or I want to teleport out from here. And it's very good that the hotkey like manager is screaming on me, because indeed it should be fixed. And when I change the inventory to, let's say, default one, it's not screaming at me anymore. So I think the key conflicts is like working super well, and I love this feature. Last but not least, I would like to talk about the bugs, because there are two bugs that are still present, and Blizzard said that they fixed one, but actually they didn't. I did address this also in the new PTR iteration. So what it's all about? It's about Orb of Slow and Orb of Lightning, the Orb Orc. So the two orbs that have chance to prog, right? There you'd never know if you will prog it or not, because there is some chance less than 100. And what is then issue? So those are enemy footies, right? So when I go with move command close to them, or I even move command on them, right? Then Archmage, they will still start attacking me because they're enemy. And look at this. I'm attacking, I have the orb. You may say, Sol, be patient, the orb will proc at some time, and it's not proccing. Because when Archmage auto-acquired targets, I didn't tell him to actually attack, you know, I just sent him with move command, or he was idle, you know, and then some enemy unit appeared close to him, he'll auto-acquire target, and the orb is basically only giving us +5 damage, but there is no this sweet orb effect that we want. So in this example, I would just says, okay, attack this particular footman, and to not bring the other heroes. Look at this, the Orb of Slow is already working. I changed the target, and it will proc on the other hero, on the other one as well. Of course, there is a chance to it, we are just waiting. Do it, proc, and it procced finally, right? So it works, but yes, it's all about the auto-targeting. What is funny, the melee heroes, they don't have this problem, right? So I give orb to my Blade Master, I send him with the right click, right? So with the move command near the footies are starting to attack, and yes, the melee heroes, they are auto-acquiring without any issue, right? So please fix this for orcs and for humans, basically, because yes, when you buy orc, you would like your orc to have the auto-acquire. And last but not least, I'm going to make a quit because you probably know, but this is the bug that I found, at least that I'm aware of. So yes, we have MK with Orb of Slow
Slow on
and
the
with Buff,
Spellbreaker.
right? And this is an enemy Spellbreaker, so it's a spell immune unit, but look, we are attacking him, right? So the Orb effect will go off, there was no auto-acquiring, but it's a spell immune unit that we all slowed down and we bashed. So as you can see, Bash works versus Breakers, and even Orb effect works versus Breakers, right? As you know, giving Orb to a melee hero, it makes it able to attack air unit, right? So we expect the same ability, right, for MK. So we send the command to bash and slow down the destroyer, right? So the MK is attacking, he got the order, it just takes some time. Yes, look, the Orb of Slow effect proc, and let me tell you, I tested it. For some reason, the bash won't proc, right? But yes, that was it, the most important changes in this patch, and I would like to use this opportunity to say big thank you for Blizzard for working on it and to listening to the feedback from community, and I would say big thank you to the community, especially Mr. WTii and Mr. Back to Warcraft that reacted to my previous video, so maybe some of those ideas went to Blizzard directly, who knows.
Oh, I definitely
yes,
think
thank you
so.
for working on it. And yes, in this video I'm not commentating about the balance stage of things. I wanted to just show you what is new and is it works, because at PTR sometimes it doesn't. Make sure to sub to the YouTube channel, because I will publish a lot of shorts, you know, showing a lot of those concepts like in a single video. And yes, thank you for watching, and I'm excited for the next iteration of the PTR, because yes, Warcraft 3 is getting actually better and better, and definitely much easier to tune in for a new players. With the hotkey system like that, there is no longer need to change the text file. Thank you guys for watching, see you in the next one. Bye!
Good video. Yeah, goes over these things. I'm happy if Blizzard can get more attention to this as well. Obviously, there's a thing I also want to test now that he's kind of reminded me halfway through the video, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to interrupt it. For example, I'll just load up the normal Warcraft 3. It's the audio, it's the music. So for this, loading up normal Warcraft 3 and whack the volume up. There we go. Sound, music. There you go. You can clearly hear the music now. Someone was saying in my YouTube comments as well that they weren't getting unit sounds and movement sounds for some reason. So I did show an Imgur file, which is basically just, you know, a screenshot of this. So if you do have issues with unit sounds, just click these off and then click them back on again. You know, just play around with that. It's going to be loud, so you won't hear me very easily. Let's just say... Oh, Novia, thank you very much for the sub. Go to campaign. Just do the first level.
Really love the Origins campaign videos, thanks for that.
Oh, well, you'll be pleased to know the human one is now finished. That's fully voice acted, so I'll be moving on to that shortly. So if you're interested, then you can stay tuned for that. So this is chapter 1, Chasing Visions. You can hear the music there. So let's give it a save. I'm going to wait until I hear music properly.
Skillfully done.
Skillfully done.
Very good. The path to the next banner
That's a low bar to reach, I tell you.
This reflects areas you
Okay, you can definitely hear music now. The Orc music's a little subtle, this soundtrack, but... So let's load that. Wait for it. I can already hear it. It's a shame it's not a different soundtrack, because this one's a bit harder to sort of pick up on. But if you listen, you can definitely hear there's more than one soundtrack playing there.
Select Thrall and order him to move to the banner in the middle of the encampment.
There you go. I wanted to let that linger just a bit so it was really obvious. Because unfortunately that is the one soundtrack that is like one of the hardest ones to pick up on. You can actually still hear it playing whilst I'm in the menu here. Okay, so I'm going to go into the PTR now, and hopefully I can just go into the campaign there as well. And do the same thing, basically. And see if that has been fixed. Because it would be helpful, because when I have to save and load, I had to keep coming out of Warcraft 3 completely to go into it. So this should be the PTR. It does say public test at the top left, so that looks about right. Chapter visions. I don't think the difficulty is going to make a difference between normal or hard. Speed run.
Yes.
Yes.
Dabu. Skillfully done. Very good. The path to the
Oh,
next
it's the
banner
old
leads to
school
the
as
black
well. You
area.
can just spam fast sight.
Notice how the black area shrinks as Thrall moves through it. This reflects areas you have explored.
Okay.
Select Thrall and order him to move to the banner in the middle of the encampment.
Where's my music at? Music, 100%. Okay, I can hear it now. Warcraft 3 music is so ambient. Alright, so game saved on 5. Do it a good number of times to make sure. I don't think I can turn it up any more than 100%. I think that's about as high as it goes. Turn it up to 11 maybe. If you're old enough to get that reference, well done. Okay, sit back and listen now. So weird to describe that as music as well. Well, that's definitely not repeating. It sounds fine, yeah. It's just, like I say, it's unfortunate because that is the one soundtrack that sounds like it echoes by default. Okay, now we got some actual music. Because yeah, it keeps going like that. It's like, is it repeating or not? Gee, chicken tendies! Thank you very much for the sub. Okay. Do we hear it in the menu? No, that's separate. Now it's cut the music. You got music here. And then this is just like the main menu music. What's with those scuffed looking clouds in the background though? You know what those look like? That's fixed, by the way. That definitely seems fixed. You know what those look like? Those look like sprites. Again, you'd have to be kind of old to know what that really is properly, but if you're playing an old game like 1993 Doom or something, and an explode, or Duke Nukem, and an explosion goes off, it'll be like screenshots of the explosion, and there'll be like 8 that will play one after the other. Basically like a slideshow. So that's why the images look like they're just images that are just doesn't look like 100 frames worth, so it looks more smooth. And yes, that is how we see things. We do these things just as pictures, but we see it quick enough that it looks like it's a moving image, etc. But everything is just technically a picture, one picture at a time. But yeah, that looks really jank to me now that I'm looking at it. It's like a bunch of blue nuclear explosions going off in the background for some reason, or there's a bunch of filthy abominations farting all the time on my screen. But yeah, thanks for watching. We went down a path there. GG.